It was my first summer on a fire tower. I thought the hardest part would be the quiet. I was wrong about that. The quiet was the second hardest part. The hardest part was what lived inside it. I'd been an EMT in Missoula for 2 years before I took the lookout posting on Spotted Bear Mountain. Good years, mostly. You get used to blood. You get used to the hours. What you don't get used to is the face a mother makes when you stop compressions on her kid and she understands, standing in her kitchen in bare feet, that you've stopped because there's no point. I quit 3 days after that call, turned in my badge, my radio, my shears, sat in my apartment for 6 weeks watching the ceiling fan. The Forest Service listing said minimal human contact. That sounded about right. The drive up to Spotted Bear took 4 hours from Missoula. 2 on pavement, 2 on dirt that got narrower every mile. The district ranger met me at the trailhead. Guy named Prescott. Mid-50s, sun-creased, shakes your hand once and considers the conversation finished. He loaded my gear onto the mules and pointed up the trail. "Tower's at 7,800 feet, he said. "You've got a radio, propane stove, gravity-fed water from the spring. I'll check in at 0800 and 1800. If you see smoke, you call it in with the Osborne. That's the job." He didn't mention the rules. The tower was a 14 by 14 glass box on stilts, bolted to granite on the summit, catwalk around the outside, trapdoor in the floor with a ladder going down. In the center of the room sat the Osborne Firefinder, a brass sighting instrument on a steel pedestal like something from a submarine. Crosshairs, a rotating azimuth ring marked in degrees, a topographic map under glass. You'd spot smoke, line it up, read the bearing, call it in. I liked that instrument. Mechanical, precise, it just worked. The first 3 days were fine. I unpacked, organized the cabinet, tested the radio. Prescott's voice came through scratchy but clear at 8 and 6. I watched thunderstorms over the Chinese wall to the north and logged a small smoke near the South Fork that turned out to be a legal campfire. On the 4th day, I opened the supply cabinet to inventory the canned goods and found the list. It was a single sheet of lined paper, torn from a yellow legal pad, taped to the inside of the door. Small, tight handwriting, 7 numbered items. At the top, underlined twice, "Tower rules, read these." Rules 1 through 4 were practical. Radio check-ins, bare canister distance, the loose railing on the north side, pack rats on the stairs at night. Fine. Normal. Rule 5 said, when the Osborne Firefinder spins on its own, do not look at where it points. Rule 6 was about the propane heater leaking. Rule 7 said, if the light at 247 is visible, close the shutters, do not wave, do not signal, it is not a hiker. I read Rule 5 again, then Rule 7, then the whole list a third time. The handwriting was steady through Rules 1 through 4, tighter on 5, normal on 6. Rule 7, the letters were pressed hard into the paper, deep enough to leave grooves on the back. I asked Prescott about it on the 1800 check-in. He was quiet for a long time. "That'd be from Darren," he said. "He had the tower before you. Don't worry about it." "What happened to Darren?" "Family thing. He left early." He changed the subject to weather forecasts and signed off. That night was my first real night on the mountain. No moon, no wind. I turned off the propane lamp and lay on my cot listening to nothing. Not peaceful, nothing. The heavy kind. The kind that has texture, like the air had been packed tight around the tower and sealed. At 1:47 a.m., I know because I checked my watch. I heard a sound, a small mechanical click, then another, measured, even, like a clock's second hand, but slower. I sat up. The sound was coming from the center of the room. The Osborne Firefinder was rotating, slowly, maybe 3 degrees per second. The brass crosshairs swept past the north window, the east window, and stopped. I got up, walked to it, read the azimuth, 247 degrees. I looked out the south-southwest window at bearing 247. Nothing but black ridgeline and stars. 11 miles of burned drainage and dark timber, and not a single light. I remembered Rule 5. I did not pick up the binoculars. I went back to my cot. I did not sleep. It happened again the next night. Same time, 1:47 a.m., same sound, that slow, measured clicking, like brass teeth counting something I couldn't see. I lay on my cot and listened to it rotate. I didn't get up. I didn't check the bearing. I already knew. 2:47. By the end of the first week, I'd stopped being surprised. By the end of the second, I'd started logging it. Date, time, duration, final bearing. I kept a separate notebook, a green field book I'd brought for bird observations. The entries were all the same. June 14, 1:47, rotation 12 sec, bearing 247 degree. June 15, 1:47, June 16, 1:47, rotation 12 sec, bearing 247 degree. Every night, never varied by a second, never varied by a degree. I tried to explain it. Thermal expansion of the pedestal, magnetic anomaly in the granite, vibration from what? Nothing up here to vibrate. No traffic, no machinery. Most nights, no wind, just me and the glass and the dark. I asked Prescott about Bunker Creek drainage on the morning check-in. Kept it casual. Hey, what's out at bearing 247 from the tower? Anything I should be scanning for? Long pause. The kind of pause where you can hear someone deciding what not to tell you. Nothing out there, he said. Burned in 91. Lightning strike took the whole drainage. Don't worry about it. Has anyone been out there recently? I thought I saw. You didn't see anything. Focus on the active timber to the north. He signed off. I sat there with the radio in my hand for a while. There were old logbooks in the bottom drawer of the cabinet, 3 of them going back to 1988. I started reading them during the long afternoons when the sky was clear and there was nothing to spot. Most of it was weather data and fire reports, but scattered through the pages were other entries. A lookout named Bill Taggart, 1993. Finder acting up again, same bearing. Maintenance says the instrument is fine. I don't think it's the instrument. A woman named Grace Olvera, 2004. Saw the light again at 2:47. Reported it. District says no one's out there. I'm closing the shutters at night from now on. And then Darren Cole, 2017. His entries were more detailed, more careful. June 3rd. The Osborne moved at 01:47. Bearing 247. I've marked the ring with a pencil line to confirm rotation. I am not imagining this. June 19th. Pencil mark moved. The finder is physically rotating. This is not thermal drift. The base is bolted to 200 pounds of concrete. July 8th. Rule 5 is the only one that matters. After July 8th, his entries stopped. The rest of the logbook was blank. He'd been assigned through September. I closed the logbook. My hands were steady, but my mouth was dry. The kind of dry your body makes when it knows something your brain hasn't caught up to. Weeks passed. The finder turned every night. I logged it every morning. I kept the shutters open because that was my job, watching for fire, not hiding from a compass bearing. But every night part of me was looking for something at that dark ridgeline, and part of me was praying I wouldn't find it. The 4th week of July, I couldn't take it anymore. Not the fear, the not knowing. That's what isolation does. The silence doesn't just eat at your nerves. It eats at your certainty. You start wondering if the things you're seeing are real or if you've been alone too long. I put duct tape on the floor where the crosshairs pointed at 247. A reference mark. Checked it before bed, crosshairs on the tape. In the morning, both at 247. Everything matched. But that night, the finder didn't stop at 247. I know how this sounds, but it kept going. Past 247, past 250, all the way around to 270. due west. Then it came back, click by click, to 247 and held, like it was showing me it could move wherever it wanted, and it was choosing 247. I opened the shutters the next night because I told myself I was a fire lookout, and fire lookouts look. The sky was clear, stars so thick they looked like static. I scanned the ridgeline with my naked eyes, following the dark line of the mountains south-southwest. And there it was, a light, at bearing 247, small, steady, orange like a campfire, but too consistent. No flicker, no smoke column. Bunker Creek drainage was 11 miles out. No trails in, no permit. The drainage burned to mineral soil in 91. Nothing left to burn. I stared at it for a long time. I did not pick up the binoculars. Not yet. I told myself I'd just look, not with the binoculars. Naked eye, same as any other fire scan. Looking was the job. But looking wasn't enough. The light wasn't just there. The light was aware. I lasted 3 more nights. 3 nights of that steady orange glow sitting on the dark ridgeline like a coal that wouldn't go out. On the 4th night, I picked up the binoculars. I braced my elbows on the windowsill and brought the 10x42s up to my eyes, adjusted the focus wheel. The ridgeline sharpened. Dead snags, mineral soil, the pale gray bones of trees that burned 30 years ago. And the light. It wasn't a campfire. It was a single point. Tight, concentrated, like a flashlight beam pointed directly at the tower, directly at the window, directly at me. I blinked. The light blinked. Same duration, exact same. I moved left, shifted my weight to the next window. The light moved left, not tracking like a searchlight sweeps. Instant. Like it was already there before I moved. Like it knew where I was going. I ducked below the windowsill. Heart going fast. Old EMT adrenaline, the kind that clears your head and makes your hands shake. I counted to 10, looked up through a different window, the west-facing one. The light had moved. It was centered in the new window, perfectly framed, as if it had tracked me through the walls of the tower. I dropped the binoculars, grabbed the radio, keyed the mic. Nothing. No static, no carrier tone. The battery indicator showed full charge. The radio simply wasn't transmitting, like the signal left the antenna and stopped. Rule 7. The words came back whole. If the light at 247 is visible, close the shutters. Do not wave, do not signal. It is not a hiker. I closed the shutters, all of them. My hands were steady. EMT training doesn't leave you, even when the rest of you is falling apart. I pulled the heavy wooden panels down one by one until the glass box became a wooden box and the only light was the green glow of my watch dial. I stood in the center of the room in the dark. The Osborne finder started clicking. Click, 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 rotating. In the pitch dark, I could hear the brass moving in the pedestal, the faint scrape of metal on metal. It was louder now, or maybe the shutters just made everything louder. I don't know. I stood there with my hands at my sides and listened to it turn. It stopped. I didn't check the bearing. Darren was right. Rule 5 was the only one that mattered. Not because of what the finder pointed at, but because looking was what it wanted. The light needed to be seen. The finder was the invitation. And once you looked, really looked, through lenses, with intent, you'd given it something. Attention, a direction to follow back. I sat on the floor with my back against the pedestal, and I did not move until dawn. Morning came slow. Gray light leaked through the shutter gaps. I opened them one by one. The light at 247 was gone. The ridgeline was empty, dead timber, gray soil, nothing. I walked to the Osborne finder, read the bearing. It wasn't at 247. It was at 118 degrees. I pulled the topographic map from under the glass, drew a line from the tower at bearing 118, followed it with my finger across the contour lines, down the ridge, through the timber to the trailhead where my truck was parked, where the only road down began. I picked up the radio. It worked fine now. Clear signal, strong carrier. Spotted Bear Station. This is Spotted Bear Lookout. Requesting early termination of assignment. Effective immediately. Prescott didn't ask why. He just said, copy. Mule team will be at the trailhead at 1400. I packed in 40 minutes. I didn't take the logbooks. I didn't take the green notebook. I left the rules list where it was, because whoever came next would need them. And I walked down that mountain, and I did not look behind me. The drive out took 4 hours. 2 on dirt, 2 on pavement. I checked the rearview mirror once on the dirt road. The road behind me was dark under the canopy, and there was a light, small, steady, the color of a campfire. It was there for 1 second, then the road curved and the trees swallowed it. I didn't check the mirror again. A month later, I called the district office, asked if they'd staff the tower for the rest of the season. The woman on the phone said no, budget cuts. The tower had been unmanned since I left. But when they sent a crew up in October to winterize it, the logbook had entries through the end of August. In handwriting,